welcome to the first video dealing with Adobe Edge Animate. Since this is the first video, I also want to just cover some basics that deal with my videos in general, which in this case is going to give away some quiz questions for you. Now, if I give quizzes or tests in the future, they're not going to be this easy, but what the heck. First day stuff, let's make it easy. So, first question says, I create these instructional videos with very expensive equipment and spend hours editing them. False. I use a free program called Screencast-O-Matic, which tracks my mouse movements, records my voice, and I could, after these videos are done, find a third-party software, go back, edit things, but the problem is that takes a lot of time, a lot of obsessing over the quality of the videos, so I don't do that. I rely on you guys to let me know if there are problems. So that's number 2. I want to know if there are any mistakes in my instruction. Please send me an email. Let me know in class. It would really help if you say, for example, at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, you said this. I think you meant to say this. And then I will go ahead and either redo the video if it's a very horrific mistake, or do something like this where I post the videos, I would put mistakes and list the time and say what it was so that you can make note of that before you start watching the video. Okay, so next is I talk very slow during these videos because you only need to watch them one time. Well, for most of you, you'll think I'm probably talking more on the quick side. I try to talk clear and quick so you don't feel like the videos are dragging too much. And when you get to a part that is more complicated, what I highly suggest you do is listen to the part you're trying to learn, go try it in Animate, back it up, listen to it again until you get it right. Obviously, if there's something wrong, let me know. But otherwise, that's just part of learning. For some people, you're going to have to back it up and try it like 15 times to get it to work for you or to really understand what's going on. Other people will get it the first time. So this is typically what Edge Animate looks like the first time you have it open. I'm going to go ahead and close it so that we can talk about some basic stuff here. So if you don't have an icon for the program down at the bottom, go up to the magnifying glass here at the top and just start to type in the word Animate. And if you have it installed on your computer, it's going to be one of the first hits to come up. Just double click on it. It will launch the program. And now if you want that icon to show up at the bottom of the screen, you won't be able to see it here, but I do have an icon. I'm going to control click or right click on it. And then I'm going to go to options and I'm going to select keep in dock. That'll place a check mark, which mine already has in there, so that the next time I open up my computer, there will be an icon down there. I just click on it to open it. To create a new file, we can either double click on create new here, or, and especially if this is closed, like some people just tell it never to show this again, you can just go up to file and click new. Either way, opens up a new program for you with some defaults, a default stage size, and things that typically show up all the time here. And before the class is over, you will know what almost everything in here does, but in the sake of getting through our first week together, let's just cover real basic stuff here. So up here, you have your tools that are available in Flash, and if you hover the mouse over them, they'll tell you exactly what each one is. And I will just click on right now this rectangle tool and then click and drag to create a rectangle just so you can see a couple things that happen here. First of all, Edge automatically creates a new layer for us and gives it a name that kind of makes sense, but you can always double click on it and rename it. And notice that changes here in our timeline layers and also in our elements layers, which we'll talk more about later. And I want you to see that if I take this selection tool, click on it to select it, and then I click on this item, which happens to be a rectangle, I get information over here in what I consider to be the most important panel in Edge, especially for when you're learning the program. And that was also a giveaway of a test or a quiz question. But if I click on nothing, in other words, outside of the stage or in the stage, but not on an actual item in there, then I get information about the stage itself. So property panel, very important. Not only does it give you information about the items that you're clicking on, but also if you look at it, it starts to give away things that can be animated in this program. Anything that has a diamond next to it, that state can be changed and thus animated. Now, as we work with Edge, you'll see that you can make things in Photoshop, make things in Illustrator, and animate them in Edge. However, if you can animate it using only Edge, then that makes more sense. So in other words, don't go into Illustrator, make a square, copy and paste it into Edge. If it's just a square or a circle or a rounded rectangle or text that you're trying to animate it in Edge. So I'll say anything being close to a rectangle, animate in Edge. So what do I mean by that? What's close to a rectangle mean? Well, believe it or not, these three tools here are essentially all the same thing, because I can create a perfect square, which I'll do by taking the rectangle tool, and to make it perfect, I'll hold down the Shift key, which is a modifier key in most Adobe programs that will make things more constrained. So in this case, making a perfect square. The way you want to use those modifier keys is hold those down to the very end. So I'm clicking, I'm dragging, I'm holding down the Shift key, I'm going to release the mouse, then release the Shift key. Now I have a perfect square. What I'm going to do is open up in this Properties panel with this item selected. I'm going to go to the corners here. I'm going to change pixels to percentage. I'm going to change the corner to 50%, hit return. I now have a circle that, and this is the key thing, is that most of this stuff that's written here code-wise in Adobe Edge Animate is basic HTML5 and CSS3 with JavaScript. So by doing it this way, as opposing to making this graphic in another program, it just writes some simple commands that say that this is how this item is. And basically what that means is it's very quick for web-based programs to recognize this item, takes up a lot less memory. And as a digital animator, you will find that there are always multiple ways to achieve the same effect, which that was just an example of that. So I believe to be a good animator, digital animator especially, you need to be a good problem solver, a good troubleshooter. So Edge, of all the programs that I've worked with, and they're probably all going to start becoming like this, where one of the things that this program does that's very nice, watch this, I'll delete this circle, the circle's gone, and the layer that it created for it is gone. And watch this, I'm just going to create one after another rectangles, and notice that each one that it creates, it makes a brand new layer for. So the beauty of that is that I can experiment around in here. Like say, try an animation with this rectangle. If I like it, great. If not, all I have to do is delete it. Not only is the rectangle gone, but also the layer that was created for it. So let's conclude by making a simple animation and then talking about what happens when you save things in Edge Animate. Let's just delete everything we have here so we can start fresh and you can follow along with me. Okay, so the first method I'm going to show you of animating is actually paying attention to the Properties panel and using the Properties panel to animate. So let's do this. Let's make a rectangle over at the left side of our stage. We're going to animate the X position, which is the left to right position of this. So what we're going to do to make sure we're all on the same playing field is make sure that your playhead, which is this thing here that you can click and drag and move, is all the way over to the 0, 0 position. Let's make sure that the only thing turned on in here is just this second option, which is auto transition. When everything's turned off, it's grayed out. So we want this one on. Now what we're going to do is come up here to the X and we're going to click on this little diamond here. Watch what happens in this area here. Click on that. It places a little diamond here, which is known as a keyframe, and it records the value of that keyframe, left or X, one and the same. We're going to move our playhead over to 2 seconds. So what we're saying here is this is what we want to occur from 0 to 2. And what we're going to do is place another keyframe there. So right now we have 2 keyframes for this rectangle 6 is what mine is called right now. In fact, let's just double click on that and just rename it rectangle. If we, with this selected or turned on, the automatic transition, if we change one of these, either the first one or the second one, it will record that value and it will automatically transition between the two. So let's change the second one. And the way that you control which one you're changing, the first or the second, is by the position of the playhead. So what I'm going to do, select this rectangle. I'm going to click and drag it with the shift key held down so that I move it to the other side of the stage. And you'll see that this X value over here changes. And you'll see that we automatically got a transition in there. Now to see what that looks like, I can just hit the space bar and it'll play my animation. So just by changing the one property and telling it to automatically transition, Edge has done a whole lot of work for me. It's done all the in-between stages. We've put our initial keyframe, our last keyframe, but Edge does all the tween frames, which is everything in between here and here for us. Okay, so now what happens if we save this? All right, so let's go File, Save As. Let's do that again. File, Save As. Make sure that Save in a Folder is checked because that is key. Edge is definitely a folder-based program. So let's just name this something like First Try Anim. And I want to make sure that this is going to my desktop, or you can put it wherever you want, such as a flash drive, but just know where it's going. Let's not check hide extension. That'll make life easier for you if you're going back and forth between a Mac and a PC. Then let's click Save. Now let's go to the desktop. Here's a little shortcut for you on getting to the desktop. Find a chunk of the desktop that you can actually click on. In my case, it'll be the bottom left here. I'll click on it. Then I'll hold down Option, Command, H. That hides everything, and I should see this folder right here that was just created. Now look at this. When I open this up, look at all the stuff that's in here. So here is our actual Animate. This is what we'd click on to open it in Edge Animate and edit it, for example. But you also have an HTML folder. You have some JavaScript that is made. You even have more of that inside of this Edge Includes. And we'll talk more about what these things are and publishing this stuff on the web. But the key thing that you got to know is that this is what you need to take with you. This whole thing you need to save, meaning that folder, not just any one given file that's inside of there. So when you see this question here on the quiz test, when you save a project in Edge, you end up with just one file. That is a definite false.